I keep forgetting to do a video on this big mistake I made, and I hope I can keep some other people from making the same mistake I did, because it was really stressful and I thought I ruined my Traxxas linear motor. So the stock wires that come on here are really long. They are probably close to twice as long as these are. But all I can say is do not cut the wires unless you're an expert solderer and have a very powerful soldering iron. What I didn't appreciate is the wires in here are copper strands and there's a coating on them. So if you cut the wires, you will have a very difficult time getting the wires to tin when you're soldering them. I've heard you can burn it off. I tried using my gas stove. My soldering iron wasn't even touching it. And long story short, I actually had to take this motor to my hobby shop, and they used two powerful soldering irons at the same time and were able to get the wires to tin, but not as well as the original ones were. And you know, you could really get yourself in a bad spot like I did if you cut these motor wires. And these Traxxas motors are not cheap. Now I did find a really good alternative to these Traxxas motors, which is this X-Team 3660 4650 motor. I've run this a couple times by Bandit. It's a little faster than the Valenian system, but this motor only costs $30 to $40 depending on where you purchased it from. So now the one problem with using this motor in your Traxxas car, link in the video description, I go into way more detail, but the motor wires that come with it are too short. So I did have to modify this to fit in my Traxxas Bandit. But again, don't cut these motor wires unless you're ready to take on the challenge of getting the wires tinned, which is really difficult. Let me show you really quickly on this wire I saved here what I'm talking about. I threw away a lot of the wires, so this may actually be an ESC wire. It had a little metal band on it that I was able to pry off with a pair of needle nose pliers. Then I cut the blue shrink tubing, and if you pull off the outer coating here, you can see these are tin, but when you get further up the wire, it's this copper, and this stuff takes a lot of heat and dissipates heat really quickly. So it's really hard to get them to tin, especially when there's some kind of coating on here. And some people say you can use aspirin, heat it up to kind of degrade it. You can grind it off somehow, or you can use high heat. I wasn't able to get it off no matter what I did. And again, my hobby store, using two soldering irons, was able to get my wires tinned, but it was quite stressful. So I have it here. I guess I'll go ahead and unsolder this bullet so you can see what it looks like. All right, so there you go. Forgot my pliers, so I'm afraid to touch this. But it's tinned really nicely on the ends. So if you're looking to replace the bullet connectors on your Traxxas Valenian motor, just unsolder them and then resolder on the new connectors. Now I cut the motor wires for two reasons. One, they were just way too long, so I thought I could get a little bit less resistance and have less motor wire in the way if I trimmed them. But the other thing is they only have 3.5 millimeter connectors on here. And I went ahead and replaced them with 6.5 millimeter bullets. So these are much larger and can carry a lot more amps. I think these are only rated for maybe 60 or 75 amps, whereas these are rated for more like 200 amps. One other problem, however, is with the Traxxas Bandit, space is at a premium inside the body. So it was really difficult to get these in next to the ESC. I actually had to drill out the rear shock tower some so that these connectors could fit through it. the original hole was too small, and the wires are very short on the Traxxas ESC, so it was kind of a nuisance soldering them, but it does work. I did pick up a few miles an hour by just swapping the connectors from 3.5 millimeter up to 6.5 millimeter. If I was to do it again, I might try 5.5 millimeter. I think 6.5 might be a little bigger than is necessary, but there's less resistance now, and the car is definitely faster. So that's all. I'm just hoping I can save some of you guys some aggravation, because I learned the lesson the hard way, and I thought it would just be real simple to cut the motor wires and solder my new connectors on it, but no, that was not the case at all. All right, that's all I have for now. Please like this video, please give me a subscription, and take care.